I was so unhappy that I would cry most evenings. But then I became very good at playing a version of myself, which
Yeah.
was so hard and made it worse because I just didn't want to burden anybody else. And I have the best family. I have close friends. I was like, no, I'm not burdening them with this. I'm embarrassed by this now.
Hi, I'm the self-development coach, Johnny Lawrence, and welcome to the Self-Development Podcast. Today, I'm very excited. I have got an absolute joy of an episode here. I'm sure of it. I don't even know what he's going to say, but I know it's going to be fun and exciting. So in today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking to one of the most passionate, fun, and inspirational people I've ever met. School teacher and social media influencer, Mr. Dan McFarland. Dan has been teaching for 5 years and originally came from a small seaside town in Northern Ireland. He studied for his PGCE at the University of Leicester, and that helped him pursue a lifelong dream of becoming a teacher. He's worked in Foundation Stage 2. I'm trying to get all this right here, Dan. Primary 1 for 7 years now and absolutely loves it. His experience of the education system has not always been this way, and at one point his mental health had gotten so bad that he was looking for a way out. At which point there was a significant turning point that took him on a remarkable self-development journey, one that I got to hear a lot about at a recent event we both spoke at, which is where we first met. And I was sat in the lobby and I was a bit nervous. Ironically, I was doing a presentation about imposter syndrome and I had to sit there and get imposter syndrome all day as I watched all the other amazing speakers talk. And then in walked this ray of sunshine, and I feel like we've been besties ever since. What do you think?
I agree. I came in up the escalator into this fancy building, which made the nerves worse.
Mm-hmm.
And there was all this stuff laid on. And I think this was the first coffee that I had before I had your eyes of judgment.
I was really hoping you wasn't going to bring it up. I was trying to help you out.
Yeah, I'd said to you, don't let me have any more because I'll get nervous. And he spotted me over at the free, drinks, which was like water and coffee and tea. And I was like, I'm just having a tea. Oh, well, I'd say it was water. But yeah, I walked in and I saw you sitting. I was like, I'm going to go over and say hello. And because I didn't know what any of the other speakers looked like, I just saw everyone's names on the list. I was like, hiya. So I came and sat down. And then we just all of a sudden, conversation. Literally I was like, this is why I'm speaking today. And you would tell me what you were going to say. And instantly there was jokes and smiles. And you just helped relax me all day. And it was good to make a friend straight away.
Do you want to hear a secret? Okay, let me hear you answer. Do you want to hear a secret?
Yes.
Always. Helping you on that day helped me not be nervous. So it was kind of a selfish act.
It was something you said about people's or bags or something. I was like, because I was talking about how I had a bit of a stressful week at work. And you were like, put everyone else's bags down they're trying to give you and just have your own. I was like, that is so true. Because I was still carrying on my shoulders a bit of because I'm a leader at work, a bit of the responsibility of other people's issues. And I was like, okay, pass me the canopies, let's go.
Yeah, you might have gone too far though. The whole dancing, getting naked, that was weird. Don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I thought I thought that would just, endear me to everyone, but clearly not in that type of venue.
Just to say that is a joke. You did not do that. Not really. But no, I think what you're referring to is the whole emotional baggage thing, isn't it? I was saying like some people they carry this emotional baggage around and they just walk up to you and they put it down next to you and they stare at you until you pick it up. And sometimes it's such an awkward and uncomfortable moment that you pick it up just for that moment to be over. And I could see a lot of that. You walked in with a few bags, and then when you put them down, you look liberated. You look wonderful.
I even had my own bag, and at one point we had this side room, and he walked in as I was giving myself a spritz of Paco Rabanne. I was like, oh, I just thought this would cheer me up.
I believe they call that a green room. We were so
it was.
We were so important that we had a green room.
I felt good.
Yeah. Well, everybody was incredible. It was a great event. Charlie did such a great job, and
Yeah.
it really was wonderful. But anyway, I would like you to start by telling people a little bit about yourself and your incredible journey. We've got a lot to get through today because you are a remarkable person. You really are. And I'm really looking forward to sharing your journey with all the listeners. So, tell people about yourself and what you're about.
So a long time ago, I was born not in Bethlehem. I was born in because we're doing the Christmas play at the minute. In Ballycastle, Northern Ireland. It was recently voted one of the top places to live in the UK, and it was the #1 place to live at one point. Seaside town. Mom and dad brought me up well, or we call them Ma and Dad back home. And my brother and my two sisters, and I had a great childhood. I ran through the fields. I ran in fields I shouldn't have, annoyed the farmers. I had this really I always had this outgoing personality. Even if I can remember some of my earliest memories. We went on holiday to America to meet my aunties that live out there, and the stories they used to tell me whenever I was like 6, you would run through the house singing songs, jumping on the furniture. If someone did that now in my classroom, I'd be like, get down. Just being like the life and soul. They're always like, oh, Dan's here. Well, Daniel used to come with back then. Here he is. It's the life and soul, and I was always like a big child, personality wise and size. My mom couldn't bring food to me quick enough. And it was like my brothers and sisters would say if they didn't eat it quick, I would have it because I would always try and have off their plates. So I went to school and I left primary school and went to secondary school. That's when I felt the world change a little bit. You always find that anyway, but I'll always remember that's whenever the taunts became a bit more personal, as in, calling me fat. They used to call me spud potato. And I used to be able to brush it off quite easily when you were younger. But then whenever you get older and you start to care a little bit more about what people say, then it clings on. And I was never one of the popular ones at school. And I remember I hated PE. Absolutely hate it. Only because you were judged on, I wasn't one of the sporty ones, so I wasn't in the teams. So you were sort of made feel sometimes that you weren't good enough. So that's another thing to throw on the baggage, which meant then I had this negative view of sport. And I didn't like it because I judged anyone that plays it on the people that I was in school with, the negative ones. Not everyone was like that. So then I didn't want to take part in any of that. So then that started the lack of exercise, and then I would eat comfort eat and stuff. Then I went to uni, but before I went there, I always, in my primary school book, I've written what do I want to be when I grow up, and I wrote primary school teacher. I wanted to be a primary school teacher. I even wrote that, so I would have been about 11 at that point. And in my head, I was like, I'm sure that I probably wanted to be a pop star, but teacher is what my teacher would probably get. I get a sticker for that. So, but then I did always wanted to do that. And back home, there's a couple of teaching universities you can go to, and I applied to both of them. And I'll never forget going into one of them and instantly feeling that I wasn't good enough because I wasn't dressed like them. And I'll never forget someone, and I love my mom and dad, and I always remember this girl looking my mom up and down, and I was like, oh, okay, who do you think you are? And I was like, my mom had the makeup and all on that day, coming from my interview and all. She had it. I felt we were both really dressed up, but there was people who were OTT dressed. I was like, is this a wedding or? But I didn't get into either university. So then which I was only 17 at the time. So I was like, oh, okay, so what else will I do? So I went to Queen's University and did zoology. And when I tell people that they were like, you did what? So I remember sitting in these labs, bored out of my mind, because there was no one around in a white coat staring down an electron microscope. And I was like, is this life?
Oh,
and
wow. I can't see that for you. I really can't.
No, I remember sitting in the depths of winter in this lab somewhere up in Belfast, cutting liver flukes out of dead mice that we'd put in there, trying to see which medicine helped them. I know, can you believe I used to do this?
I really can't. I just can't.
Me near a scalpel? And I was like, and I started to just become, I was so self-conscious at this point, and all my worth was put in. I didn't get into the teaching university, so I went to Queen's University. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I had to get a degree. That's what I thought. I have to get this degree. And then I could do a PGCE after it. And then I got my degree, and then I remember going to apply for a PGCE in Northern Ireland and didn't get in. But I'll always remember how I was made feel. I can't remember what they said, as my feedback to me. But I remember leaving and crying and thinking, is this it? And I would have been 22, maybe 20. Yeah, about 22. And I was working in a supermarket then. I'll never forget one of my old teachers coming in going, oh, is this what you do now? And I quite enjoyed my job in the supermarket. And this is and for one of my old teachers to say that, I was like, oh God, I've got to be sick. I just remember thinking, is this what everyone thinks now? Because someone else said, oh, I thought your mum said you went to the big university and got a degree. And is this what you're doing now? And I was like, how dare you say that? And then, like, can you imagine, like,
Wow.
when I think back to how I was at 22, I remember thinking I was so grown up. You're not. You're absolutely not. You've got a whole life of living to do. So I remember one day, it was during the summer, I was sitting watching TV and they were doing like a montage of old TV shows. And this show came on called Bug Juice, which is about an American summer camp. And they had these people who could go and work in it. And I was like, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to apply for this. And I remember like some of my friends are like, you're going to go there all by yourself. And I was like,
What was it called?
Camp America.
Camp America.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I was like, I'm going to do that. I've just got goosebumps thinking about it because I remember that day sitting in my living room. Thinking I'm going to apply for this. And I remember going to this interview. I'm filling up because I just know that this is the turning point where it started to get better a little bit before work took it away again. And I got into Camp America. Spoiler alert. And I went to America to work for the summer. I remember we had a going away party. But before I got to America, I had applied for a PGCE in Birmingham, Liverpool, and Leicester. And Leicester were the first to get back to me. And I had a month to get the interview done and get on a flight to America to go to work. And I was like, right, come on. I remember sitting thinking, who am I now? I'm flying over to the big city in Leicester. And I remember getting the bus from the airport. I didn't know where I was going. So I remember I was 21 stone at this point. I had to like go to try. Nothing would fit me.
How exciting!
All the way. I was so excited. I was like, on my own for the first time ever going away out of Northern Ireland on my own. I'd never been out on my own ever.
And you was 22 at this time?
22, yeah. 20, wait, no, I was 23 at this point now 23. For PGCE. And I flew over and I remember like going to the university and being like, okay, you're going to walk in there and you're just going to go for it. I don't know anyone here. I don't have anyone to impress. So I went in and I was totally like, yeah, I'm going to be a primary school teacher. I'm going to play the role as a primary school teacher. And I'll never forget the day I flew back. And I got a call saying, hi, we would like to offer you a place in the PGCE. And I burst into tears. I went in and told my mum, and she cried. I just remember that feeling. And I was like, this is it. This is it. And then I went to America, did that, flew back home, was a week back in Ballycastle, then came here, did my PGCE. And I remember the first week they sat us down and said, kiss goodbye to your life because this is what it's going to be tough. And I was like, what? And I lived in this terrible this postgrad house. It was like something out of, I can't even describe it. It looked like an army bed. And anyway, so I was sitting in this little room and I was trying to get through it. And like every time I got a good observation, and my mentors would say, that was really good. I was quite surprised. I would never take any good feedback on. Until recently, I was one of those people that would instantly hit it away and say, don't believe that at all. And then I was always going to go back home. And then I got a job before I finished my PGCE. And I was like, I can't believe I've just got a real job in a school. They're going to pay me money to stand in a room in front of these children and say stuff. And I remember the school was called Highcliffe, and I was there for 7 years. And we had the best time for about 4 or 5 years. And it was just so much fun. My best friend Sarah and I can see her picture on the wall. So she worked in the other classroom, and we had there was the creativity that the two of us had together. It was like spark, and it was like lighting a firework. And then I remember I'd lost the stone at this point, and I was like, oh, okay, life is good. And then this became an academy, and then you had to follow certain scripts. You had certain sentences you had to say, certain way resources had to be made. If you were going to do a PowerPoint, or my best friend and I call it PowerPoint Prezi, if you could do one of those, it had to have a certain font, a certain size, certain background. And already I was like, right. And then we were always told to put on showpiece lessons. And I remember I was like, I can't. Sometimes you just don't have the energy. And then the paperwork was absolutely shocking. Like I would do like 4 or 5 pages for maybe one lesson. And then they reduced the amount of teaching assistants we had. So there was no one to help do things like displays. And I remember being like, I can't do this, but I love my job, but I can't do this anymore. And I remember like my friend and I were just sitting in our car one day crying and going, let's just go to my house and put on some cheesy music and just have a laugh.
Were you
And I
both
was like,
crying?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Because what they did was they said, because I was quite outgoing at that point, and I am now, I got it back. They were like, and I had like
you're
I had like
hardly a shrinking violet.
there you. I had this superhero cape I used to wear when we did. So I just don't teach any words. When you teach children these words that you can't sound out, I was like, these are superpower words. And I had, I've got the power. And I used to have a superhero cape. And I remember someone that was in charge of us saying, oh, I think to my friend, I think you should get one as well. Be more like Dan. And that annoyed me because we were best friends. And I was like, why would you want someone to be more like the other teacher? You're sort of saying that what their personality is needs to be like the other person. And that started to sour slightly our friendship a little bit. And then she got moved to a different year group just because she didn't want to work with me anymore. And I took that very personally.
Yeah, that's tough.
And then I thought to myself, what is it about me that I need to change? Am I too much? And then I remember like a couple of friends I had who are not in my life anymore used to say to me sometimes, you're a bit much, you're too much. And I was like, but what is too much? And because I never really felt as if I had close friends around me all the time. I felt that I had to impress all these people and be different people to a different person of a different version of me, depending on who I was around. And it was exhausting.
Can I just interrupt you a minute? I want you to hear this. Never change. Never ever change. Honestly, like never ever change. Please don't.
I wouldn't do that now. Now if someone said that to me, I'd be like, well, now go. Walk out the door. Don't turn around.
You
now.
totally would as well.
You're not wanted anymore.
He does this. Listeners, he does this.
Fine, I just turn into songs all day long.
He's got a headset on at the moment. If you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening on Apple or Spotify, he has what he has described to me as a Janet Jackson headset on.
My sister gave this to me. I saw it in her house and I was like, what's that? She was like, what's what? And I went, you know what I mean. What is that?
Stop playing games.
And she was like, do you want that Janet Jackson headset? Like she knew what I was going to call. I was like, mm-hmm. And then this is the first time I've ever used it properly. But anyway,
an honor. It's an honor.
Yeah. Yes. So my friends and I we both left that school together and went to a new one together into the sunset. Off we went. Tunes in the car. We're like, yay, brand new beginning. Let's do this. And I remember being really burnt out that year where I remember going home. I go home for the summer and I must have slept for days. And I remember looking in the mirror going, oh God, I'd put on that couple of stone again that I'd lost. And I remember just before we left, I had stopped using my oven. I'd had no time to cook. This table was not an eating table anymore. This was a work table. And then I was like, right, okay, new beginning, new start, went to this new school. Now, when I say that the next 9 months were the most horrific in my life, I had lost my granddad a few months before I started there. And I will never forget being asked to make sure that the planning was in planning for. So I found out on a Sunday. And so I texted my head teacher at the time to say, you could tell it gets me. They're right there on the wall. My granddad passed away. I couldn't even breathe. And I was like, oh, I've got work tomorrow. And in Northern Ireland, you get buried within 3 days. So I'm going home. I don't care. I'll take it unpaid. And I was told, okay, well, can you make sure the planning is in supply format, please, for tomorrow? So I was sitting at this very table, typing it, putting more detail in hysterics, with that picture off the wall in my arm. And I remember I was that tired that I left here, packed a bag with barely anything because I couldn't think, and got on the airplane to go home, still holding that. I was so out of it, I was still holding that photo. And the air stewardess was like, are you okay? And I was like, she's the first person that my head teacher didn't ask me if I was okay. Other friends did, but she's like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not. And I just burst into tears. But then I went to this new school, and the next 9 months were worse for me emotionally than losing my granddad, which ripped the heart out of me. So if you're listening to this, can you imagine this is a person who's been in my life, who I looked up to, is gone. I watched him deteriorate, but the next 9 months that followed after that were absolutely hideous. When workload, got so bad that I used to work to about 2 or 3 in the morning, go to bed. I'd roll off this and get into bed in my clothes and get up. Some days I wouldn't even shower. I would just spray and change my clothes and go. And then it became really hard where I was very anxious about finding clothes to fit because I had no time to eat or cook. Sorry, I had time to eat because I had no time to cook anything. I just got stuff off out of Asda shelves. And I remember always just getting like a 12-inch pizza and sticking it in the oven just to heat up and be like, in my mind, I was like, oh my God, that's like 13 and a half minutes. Hurry up. I don't have time to eat this. And I would eat over the computer. And then I was told that I was observed teaching. I was told that I'm not as good as I think I am. And then that's whenever it started. It wasn't all in one go. It was slowly grinded down over the term to the point where I'd wake up and I remember sitting on the sofa there with my head in my hands going, I can't go in there anymore. I just want the day over so I can get back home and come in here to this little cocoon and do nothing. I couldn't even listen. Upbeat music was something that I couldn't do. TV gave me a sore head. I took cams during the day and I had so in the morning I would have a double espresso and a coffee from McDonald's and probably get a McMuffin. And then I had a Red Bull mid-morning to try and perk me up. And I'll never forget some of the management coming into my classroom and going, meeting at 1, be there to me. And this is whilst I'm teaching. And I was like, oh God, what's this going to be about? And I remember saying to my TA, I was like, I need to go to the toilet. And I just ran and I was sick. And then I went into this meeting and I was like, whatever this is, do not give them your tears. They do not deserve this. And I remember going in and I had some of my books opened. And they were like, why are all your children's ascenders not touching the top line? For people who aren't teachers, ascenders are the letters that go up, like a D, a H, an L. And why are they all not touching the top line? And I think I was so out of it by that point. My line was, because they're 6.
Good answer. To be fair, it's a good answer.
And then I knew, I was like, oh, no. And then a book opened. At lunchtime today, you said, oh, sorry, lunchtime yesterday, you said, and read up. So I was in the staff room complaining. I wouldn't say, actually, I'm not going to say, nowadays, I'm not going to say that complaining. I would just say it speaking the truth of what's actually going on, because it was such a toxic environment. It wasn't just me. Other people had it as well. And I went, come on, we can't. I was like trying to get a charge going, we can't live like this. I think I'd started Slimming World the week before and lost a pound. I got a clap. I was like, yes, yeah, thank you. So it started, you can see even then, I'd forgot, even then I was trying to fight. Even though when I thought I had nothing, I still went to try and go to Slimming World. I lost that same pound and gained it every other week. And I remember.
Can I ask do you mind me asking, what was your weight at that time?
22 stone.
And what height are you? Just because people can't see.
5 foot, 5'9", 5'8", 5'9". Yeah, 5'9".
Thanks.
And I remember thinking, I can't do this anymore. And then it set in. If I can't do this, this was the job that I worked so hard to get. What am I going to do? Go back and work in the shop and have everyone say to me that I'd let myself down. And I remember getting in the car with my friend that day and being like, we can't do this anymore. Because one of the days on the way to work with her, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be sick. I sat in the car and I was like, I'd rather catch the steering wheel now and do something to this car to make us not go to work. I can't do this anymore. And I was taking cams like no tomorrow to try and calm myself down. And I remember getting out of a car and just standing there being like, I've got nothing left, because I was wearing triple XL shirts that were barely closed. You know, when you sit down, sometimes you see some people's shirts like do that. And I remember sitting at work going, oh, I had no energy. I was out of breath tying my own shoelaces. I had sore knees. It just hurt me just to be here. I remember looking in the mirror and I was like, you are not yourself anymore. And that morning I'd taken a picture of myself in the lift, because I looked like my face was just out to here. I looked done, dead behind the eyes. And I remember saying to myself, even that day, I took that picture and said, don't ever let yourself, you'll remember this moment, this week, this day, don't ever let yourself get to that point again. And I remember getting out of my friend's car and standing at the side of the road, and I was just like, how can I just don't want to go to work tomorrow, and I feel like I'm not used to anyone anymore. I wasn't even answering calls from home because I didn't want them to see how far I had got. I looked exhausted, and I was starting to like. I'm Irish, and I like a little drink every now and then, but I would start to just have one just because. And I remember standing at the side of the road, and I was like, "Okay, 3, 2, 1," and I went to step out in front of whatever was coming, and all of a sudden I was like, "Woo!" Even then, it was quite theatrical. Woo! I remember just being like, "Can't believe you just did that." And I remember turning it, and I walked the long way home because I was like, I'm not going back there again. And I was like, I
Can we
have.
can we stay in that moment a minute if you don't mind? Because
Okay.
I think there's a lot of power in that moment that you can offer other people. Because I think people have this misconception sometimes about suicide and how selfish it is and how people get left behind and they suffer and all these different things. But I don't think those people are talking from the same place as you were. So you found yourself in a place where you were so desperate and you were so out of control and you were so overwhelmed that you were about to make a decision that you would have regretted, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a decision that you were desperate. I spoke to a chap named Josh Connolly on the podcast a few episodes back, and he said when people consider suicide, they're not trying to kill themselves, they're trying to kill the pain.
Yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely.
that's all I could hear in that moment. And I just want to offer that compassion for that, or anyone that's listening at this moment that might recognize that feeling, that how easy it can be for somebody to make a decision, a regrettable decision in that moment. Mate, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. That is that's hard to hear. That really is. But I apologize for interrupting. I just wanted to highlight that, you know.
Do you know what just makes me emotional now? Not remembering how I felt then. It's everything since then has just popped into my head. All the happy things that I've done since then, and I was like, "Oh my God, you would have missed out on all that," and it just makes me so upset.
We would have
That
never met. I
no,
mean,
we would have never
that's just
met.
the tragedy in itself.
I needed you all those years ago to knock the lattes out of my hand with a double espresso.
Wow.
That's what I needed. And like, I remember walking home that night and coming in here and being like, I tipped the cans into the bin, literally, music on. And I was like, right, okay. I was like, not letting myself sit and feeling sad. And I remember going into school the next day and I was like, I'm quitting. To like the other teacher I worked with, her and I were like, so she was like, this place isn't negative. Yes, it is. So I made her, I was like, this is toxic. So then I started to open her eyes and her get to see it more. And I remember one day we were late going to a meet. So they used to have these meetings where you bring your planning with you, and the other two teachers had to probe you on it and literally rip you apart.
That was
And
what the purpose of that was.
That was the purpose of it, yeah. And every week I remember I was like, I cannot get in there. So we were late going to it one day because I had my phone. We were in the room photocopying and guillotining, and I had my phone playing Shakira, and I was all like, "Come on, Shakira, Shakira!" And her, and my friend and I were in there like, "Never gonna do it," and then we looked, and we're like, oh, "We're 2 minutes late for this planning meet." So we ran down, paper everywhere, and went in. And of course, I was sweating because I could. Well, when I say run, I was probably dragging myself down there. And I remember being like laughing in my head of the reason why we're late is we said the printer wasn't working was because we were dancing to Shakira. But I remember I was like, okay, that's it. And I was talking to one of my other friends, and they're like, Dan, there's so I was early years lead in my old school, and I gave up being a leader. I gave up being a leader. I gave it all up just to be a classroom teacher because I couldn't. I was like, I don't want that responsibility anymore. So when I was a classroom teacher in year 1, which is P2, primary 2, and I saw this job come up in the school for being EMIFS leader again. I was like, this is it. I'm going to go to this interview and I'm going to give it lots. I'm going to give it everything I've got. But I had to tell my head teacher in the school I'm in, the toxic environment, that I was going for a job interview. Oh. So the job interview was on the Monday. The last week, 2 weeks before that, I had applied for it and found out I was getting an interview, and I was like, put her down as a reference. What am I going to do? I'm so scared. And I remember going on the Friday, I didn't tell her to the Friday. At the end of the day, I went and I was like, knocked on the door, like, hello. And I love how I'm acting it all out. And I was like, can I have a meeting with you, please? I've got something I need to tell you. And she was like, 10 minutes. Meet me in the planning room. Now, the planning room is this room. It's a long white table with chairs down. She comes in and she sits at the opposite end, like it's Beauty and the Beast and Belle. And I was like, oh my God. And it had these like lamp lights that hang down. And I was like, oh my God, this could not be anymore. In my head, I was like, this could not be any more dramatic. And I remember, so at this point, I'm 22 stone. I'm like hating everything about myself. And I was like, not only am I going for a job interview, but I'm not happy here. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a job interview. And she's like, what? We're not offering you enough here? And I was like, I just feel, and I'd only been, so like, realistically, teachers don't leave schools after 9 months. But this place had a reputation for losing staff, like literally bleeding staff like a hole in a bucket of water.
It should be a red flag, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I wish I'd Googled it before I went to the job interview. How silly of me.
No, but as you said though, you just felt so lucky to
I
got the job of your dreams.
Yeah, which turned out not to be it. And she was like, okay, good luck, and left the room. And I was like, oh, that was a lot easier than I thought. Anyway, I spent all weekend thinking about this lesson. I had many different lesson ideas going through, and I was like, if you don't get this, what are you going to do? You cannot, you've already told her you're not happy. You're going to have to stay there. Can you imagine? So I was like, you have to sing. You have to go into this lesson next week, and you're going to sing and be the teacher from 4 years ago. So I got this book called Pete the Cat, I Love My White Shoes. So it was for F2, which is primary one. And each time he steps on something different, but he's like, bam, 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 I love my white shoes. I love my white shoes. And the teaching assistants did not know me. And they're like, who is this? And I was like, everybody, I love my white shoes. I love my white shoes. And the boys and girls were like, I love my white. And then it goes, oh,
did they join in? Did they join in?
Yeah, everyone did.
Oh, I love it.
And I was like, I've got them on board. I was like, oh no. So I've got this book here. So they said to me, it has to be shared reading. Now, shared reading books are not allowed to be like the normal size picture book. They are massive. But so what I did was I went and bought a scrapbook and made my own version of the book, did all the pictures, did all the words. And I was like, oh no, he stepped in a pile of strawberries. What color did it turn his shoes? Red. I love my red shoes. Anyway, this all happens. And then I was like, right, boys and girls, we want to sequence the story. And I was like, they've got nowhere to go to do this. The classroom.
It sounds like a concert.
And I was like, what is going on here? So I gave them all this paper and I was like, right, off you go. And I've got pictures of the story, put them in order, and I want you to sing. So we went off and I was going around the classroom, this, and this. And then I was saving this bit for the end.
The big finale.
The big finale.
I know you wanted to say that.
It's coming. So before I was a burnt out mess, I was watching Britain's Got Talent, the Golden Buzzer, and I was like, wouldn't that be amazing to have something like that in real life? And I was like, I'm going to do that. So I had my own fake Golden Buzzer on the screen at work. This is before it all went wrong, by the way, the first 4 years of my job. And if we spotted a child doing something never done before, for example, writing a word, even reading one word, we were like, my TA would be like, Dan just read a word. Isn't that amazing? We're like, I'm going to get the song ready. So I'd always have it minimized at the bottom of the screen. And then I would do it and I'd play the music and they're like, who's it going to be? And it's the song, and we can build this dream together, standing strong for it. Like one of them. And we had party cannons full of gold confetti. And I'd be like, and I was like, the golden moment's going to Dan. And my TA and I would go, boom, fill the entire room full of gold. These were like I bought these from eBay, wedding professional party cannons. And the best one was when all the children ran over to this child who read for the first time near the end of the year. And they were all hugging this child. And we used to capture it on video to send to the parents.
Oh, that's amazing.
So anyway, I had reduced it to, I'm in this interview and I was like, okay, here we go. So they came back and I went, this group, you were the best. You're getting the golden moment. And it was just those little party poppers so you pull the string. But they were like, oh, yes. And then I was like, now to go for the interview after that. So I'm full of adrenaline. And I was like, sit down. And I was like, and they're asking me all these questions. And I was like, I can do this. And I knew I was giving good answers because I had interviewed people before. And then I remember I got a taxi back to the school of hell. And I was like, the other friend who I was doing secure with met me. And we were like, the job interview went really, really well. Oh, goodness. We had to stay late after school that night to present some models the children didn't even make themselves. So basically everything had to be perfect. The children made these little light models, but because they weren't perfect enough, we had to fix them. And basically they were ours. And I was like, what in the B&M bargains is going on in here? It's like, this does not look like something a child has made. I was like, it's B&M bargains. What in the B&M bargains is going on? So we're standing there, and my phone's going.
Sorry, why did B&M bug? Carry on. Sorry.
You know when you go down the B&M bargain aisle and you say, oh, that looks bougie. I'm getting that one.
You're out of control. You really
And
are.
and anyway, so my phone's going, and I know it's the school. And I answer the phone. I was like, hello? And they were like, we'd like to offer you the job of as the EYFS lead. Will you take it? And I was like, yes, I'm going to take it. So I was like, yes. So then I had to tell the head teacher that I'm leaving. And she was like, good luck. Looked our way. I'll never forget the last day of term. There's a picture of the last day of term, and we're standing against the wall. Me and my friend, we saw it on the school Twitter. Now I've cropped it. It's just the two of us because she got a job too, and we both left that year along with 11 others.
Nice. 11?
11, yeah.
Blimey.
And on they had left YouTube playing as the children were leaving assembly, and this was the last day me and my friend were at that point ever going to work together, and we'd worked together for 7 years, and we were so close. And the YouTube had popped up "Goodbye" by the Spice Girls. Goodbye, my friend. And we just hugged each other, and we were like, we've got out. And we were inconsolable. And I was in the car park. I fizzed up a thing of Prosecco with her and I. And then I went to the new school. I went home that summer and basically slept. And was like, right, okay, new beginning. I went to my new school, and the workload hit me again. And I was like, oh, teaching is not what I thought it was going to be. So this was September, October, December. I just missed out the month November. Okay, I am a teacher. September, October, November, December.
We'll skip over it. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. Everyone
Mark for edit. Mark for edit.
Edit. And the girls in the party. And so the first term, I was like, even though I was being supported and everything, all the people are lovely. The people I'm still there, lovely, amazing, supportive, but the workload was not working. I was still slightly gaining more weight. It was my sister's wedding as well, and I remember that sitting thinking, oh, I'm not going to look nice in there for wedding photographs. And then along came 2020, so came back from Christmas, lockdown, and I remember being like, I live on my own, and I was like, how am I going to deal with this? And then I was scrolling on Instagram because I had nothing else to do apart from filming my do you know, being on camera filming my lessons? I hated it because I was like, oh, because I was 22 stone, massive. I was like, today we're going to learn how to read. And I saw this advert for an online fitness coach. And he was like, I need 5, like their adverts. I need 5 guys who want to lose 10 pounds and look great. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So he gives me the call, and he said to me, I said to him, oh, I'll do it for, you had to sign up for 3 months. I'll do it for 3 months. And so this was May 2020, and I'll probably won't do any more than that, but it could be hard work because I never do anything. I said to him, I'm not the type to stick at anything. That's how I sold myself. I'm not the type to stick at anything. I give up easy, and that's why I've got myself to where I am now. And it's been 2.5 years. And I've lost, as of Sunday, 36 kilograms, which is over 70 pounds.
Wow.
And life is good. I have got my work-life balance. I'm so strict about it. I've got, if you have video of this, I've got a smile on my face. I've just done a long day at work. And there's been so many moments along the way that just still make me well up thinking about it. I remember my mum bought me this blue coat, and it never fit me, and I didn't want to tell her. I was like, oh, yeah, it fits. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And I always used to leave it in England and never take it home. She was like, where's that blue coat? I got you, Daniel. It's in England. It's my England coat. It's not. It's just blue. And it never fit me. And I remember going for you remember when we were allowed an hour each to go outside?
Yeah.
So it was raining, and I was like, gonna get the blue coat, and it zipped up. And I remember taking a photograph of it and sending it into the coaching group going, my blue coat fits me. Isn't this amazing? And like, I had a gym membership at that point, and I didn't go. Like, I had a gym membership for about 2 years. I think I went once. And then I remember keeping up. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm actually going outside and I'm walking over 10,000 steps every day, when I was doing about maybe 2,000 or 3,000 before that. I'm cooking. I'm using all cookery books. I'm actually putting value into myself now. And it was a bit of like a chain reaction momentum build. So I said to myself, I'm going to come out of this lockdown and I'm going to, not maybe, not I will, I'm going to make a change in my life. And then, like, when the schools opened up again, the workload started to come on. I remember my coach saying to me, don't be fair weather, Dan. Don't be fair weather. What is the life that you want? What's the life that you're willing to settle for? And what's the life you're willing to fight for? And I was like, ooh, the big questions are out today. And I was like, oh, and I went, well, I want to be happy. And say, what evidence in your day has shown that you are still working all the hours. You're starting to not track your calories anymore or get all your workouts in, and your progress is slowing down. Is that what you want? And I was like, absolutely not. So then I was like, I'm going to have to draw a line and say, I can't do any more than what I'm doing at work. And when I'm in there and if I know I'm doing a good job, the kids are happy and they're learning, who cares if I'm not? Because the to-do list never stops. So I created something called the can-do list. It's not a to-do list, it's the can-do list. And it's on a timetable. The morning is mine. I used to wake up and come sit on this table. As I wake up now, I don't have my emails on my phone. This laptop, I don't check emails on laptops or nothing. I get up, I've got my journal over there where I write a positive intention in it, mindful thoughts for the day. Maybe just if there's something that's annoying me in my mind, maybe I've had a bad dream or something, I'll just jot it in there. And then I'll sit and have breakfast. I have breakfast every single day now. I'll make an omelette and get the music on. And the days whenever I've got time to grind my own beans for the coffee, I used to drink. I know I used to drink 7 cups of coffee a day. Now I have 2, one here and then one just before lunch, and no more after that. And so I plan in on a Sunday's my planning day for me. People think, oh, I thought you said you didn't work at weekends. I don't. It's my planning day for me. So I plan in 2 to 3 big jobs a week of what I think I can do. And I base them on energy. I was like, oh, that is an energy sucker, that one. That's the only big thing I'm doing that week. Plan in little ones, delegate. And then in the evening from 4:30, it's like my time. What am I going to do? Clean the bathroom, go to the gym, blah, blah, blah. And I even do things like that in there. I'm going to clean the bathroom. I'm going to put the washing on, blah, blah, blah. But it's all planned out. And I meal prep everything. And I rarely, if ever, work at home. I leave that school. I've got this little catchphrase, out the door at 4:30. And I used to
I
feel
remember that.
Yeah, I used to feel guilty about it. People would be like, oh, in a nice way, and where are you going? And I'm like, I remember like thinking I had to dentist. I'm going to the dentist. Yeah. Oh, you seem to be leaving early every day. And I remember one day I questioned that, and I went, "Who says that this is early?" It's because teaching is a culture. People feel that they need to stay all the hours. Though I saw on Twitter the other day, there was some teacher saying that she's not allowed to leave until 6. Anyway, and then I will come. I remember it got to a point where I said, I don't work at home anymore. And then I had time to go to the gym. And there was one point this year where I got up and I said to my friend Tom, I'm going to go to the gym before work. Can you imagine? This is the me who used to roll out of bed, be worried about opening my wardrobe door because I was triple X shirts weren't fitting me anymore, and just barely eat breakfast and have a triple latte or whatever before I went to work. And I remember going in and I went for a swim. Now this year is the first year I've got into a swimming pool without a t-shirt on since I was 13.
Wow.
Years of age. And I remember getting into that pool and I had to turn around because I was like, oh my goodness, she just did it. And I felt, to me, that is important to me. That was one of these major steps along the way.
Yeah.
And then I booked a holiday. I went on a holiday with my sister and her husband to Alicante. And I hadn't been on a holiday since my brother, abroad, since my brother died during 2013. 13 seems to be a number for me. I must write that down for the lottery. And I sunbathed, t-shirt off in the pool. I even let a photograph be taken, and I was like, I'm not ashamed of how I look. I've put the value into me. Some people say to me, you're smiling, you're like radiating this, you're just radiating stuff. And I went, do I have to know why? Because I'm putting the value into me now. I realized that I have something to give, not necessarily to the world, but to me. I owe it to me. I owe it to the fella who was standing at the side of the road about to walk out in front of traffic. So like since I've started this, I've climbed 3 peaks, the Yorkshire 3 peaks in one day. And I remember on the last one, my knees were sore because I was still like a couple of stone heavier than what I am. This was 2021. I remember my coach being like, he held back and waited for me. And he's like, I'm not giving up on you. You're going to finish these. Some people have dropped out along the way. And he's like, you're finishing this, Dan. I was on the 3rd peak about maybe 20 minutes from finishing it, and my knees were so sore. He's like, I'm not giving up on you. And he said to me, and I use this all the time, he's like, just put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And then he said, now put your face on that in that stream and wake up. And I was like, okay then. So I like washed my face with this dirty stream water. There could have been like a sheep peeing in it on up. And then I made it to the top of the mountain and I had sunglasses on and the tears were streaming. And I was like, I did it. I did the 3 peaks. And then I signed up for the half marathon. Now this is someone who had sore knees, couldn't even. My first target was running in Feb 2021 was to run 1 minute without stopping. Couldn't do it yet at that point. And then I remember when I hit half an hour, I was like, oh my goodness, I just ran half an hour. And then I was practicing, to call it practicing, it's not a show, training for the half marathon. And this is a very important moment that happened. I was out running one day and I had to run, what was it? 16 miles, 16K, because the half marathon is 22, and running around Leicester City. I'm like, where do you go? I live in the city centre. So I kept doing loops of everywhere. I went down the side streets everywhere. And I was in such a good mood. I had the headphones on. I remember like, the way you're making me feel. Keep on. I was literally lip syncing in the street, like bouncing across the road and loving it. And then in the distance, I was like, oh, it's not. There they are, the traffic lights. Those traffic lights. That run that day took me, I was way in my head past that same spot. Now imagine, if you can see this on the video, these are the traffic lights. As I walked past, I just went like I said, punched it. I was like, done, and ran past. I had to mark it in some way, as in like, done, gone, that is gone. I'm accepting that feeling. And so I did the half marathon, everybody, in 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And there was a bit in the half marathon, and the tears came down. So I had Whitney Houston, One Moment in Time playing. It came on. One moment in time.
And he's off.
Whitney's off. And I was like, I'm actually gonna do this. It got to like sorry, I just hit the microphone. It got to like 18K, and I was like, I feel good. I'm gonna do this. I can't believe it. And then I was like smiling. I said hello to everyone wearing a Marshall jacket. I was like, hiya, hello, hi everyone. And then a couple of other songs come on that like are for me part of my journey, because I've listened to them quite a lot. Man in the Mirror, and there's another one called We Got Love by a lady called Jessica Malboy, and it talks about why you don't need to change to fit in, and just be yourself and just believe in yourself. And it came on, those 3 songs came on one after each other, and I was like, and it was on shuffle.
Wow.
And as I was running down to the finish line, all I could think was, you've done it. You've got there. And the tears were streaming. I FaceTimed my dad and my mum with my medal. I didn't take it off for like 3 days. I wore it to bed. And then I've signed up now for the full marathon, Edinburgh full marathon next May. And so that gets me to where I am now. I'm just, there are days when I feel, oh, I'm tired, or oh, this is getting to me. But I have little frameworks now to try and get me out of it. I won't let myself sink into a spiral of negativity. And then what you said that day about the baggage has totally flipped how I don't let other people influence me or zap my negativity. Because like you say, sometimes I felt I had to pick them up for them just to get this conversation done and deal with it. And because I'm a leader, I felt I always had to listen. Whereas now I'll be like, okay, I'm listening to you, but you've got 5 minutes. And I've already given you, obviously in a nice way, not like, a bit more me. I was like, I don't really
you sung it to them.
I did. I was like, you gotta search for the hero inside yourself. Deal with your own baggage, okay? No, I just was like, no.
Is that the rap element of the song? Is it?
Deal with your own baggage. Pick it up and go. Pick it up and go. And I was like, no, I won't let people. So people will take up your time. I saw this quote, or I saw it somewhere. Maybe you said it. Who knows? Where people will take your time. It's like a gas in a room. It expands to fill the space that it's got. So people and jobs and to-do lists will expand to take all the time, all your time that you let it happen. Whereas if you put a cap on it, if you like it, then you better put a cap on it. Like, put a cap on that. You're not taking my time anymore. And I figured out recently why sometimes I do get annoyed is when I feel that it's going to impact on my time. For me, for my I value me. I value the time that I put into me, because then I'm a better brother now. My sister's got twins. My brother's got a son and a son, yeah, son and a daughter, which is my niece and nephew. My other sister's expecting her child, and I'm there now. I want to go out and do things with them. I don't want to like sit in because I'm overweight, and like I'm at home and I give like when I'm at home, I'm just like full of energy for everyone now. I'm like, let's go for a walk.
I'm really interested in the boundaries part of this because we spoke a little bit on the day about the boundaries that you put in, but I want to start by, like, first of all, I want to say, well done. I'm so incredibly proud of you. And, we joked about it earlier, but you wouldn't have been there on that day and delivered that unbelievable speech, talk, whatever you want to call it. That was just sensational. And I was super, super proud of you. And you had your two friends that I met on the day as well next to me, and they were proud of you too. So
don't even, because that's going to make me emotional. Just knowing that they were there.
They were great guys as well, and they were there supporting you on that day. But I mean, what an incredible coach you had as well. You were very fortunate to have somebody who had that attitude of not giving up on you, literally on that mountain as well. The analogy there, like climbing a mountain and someone telling you that they're not giving up on you. There's a song there, buddy.
Oh gosh. He's still my coach now. I'm seeing him this weekend. We're all meeting up this weekend.
No, he sounds like a real staple in your life, somebody that was just like, heaven sent almost. But I mean, I used to use this analogy with people, and it came from one night when I was driving back from somewhere in the dark, and I knew where I was going. I knew where I was heading to, but I was going down these country lanes, and all I could see was the bit in front of me that the headlights lit up. That's all I could see. But yeah, I knew where I was going, so I had to have that trust. That all I could see was just some headlights in front of me, and that was enough to get me where I wanted to go. And that's the same analogy as what your coach there is saying. You just got to put one foot forward, next foot forward, next foot forward. Sometimes when you think about climbing from the bottom of the mountain to the top, it's too much to comprehend. So you've just got to think 1 foot, 2 foot, keep going, keep going, keep going. And it's the same with that light analogy. You just got to trust that what's beyond the lights is what's beyond the lights, but all I've got to deal with is what's in front of me right now, this short step, this short bit of movement. I'm so proud of you, mate. I really am. And I mean, I wonder, and I think I know the answer to this, but you never know. But do you believe that you became unhappy because you were overweight, or overweight because you were unhappy?
I overweight because I was unhappy. I had no value in myself, no respect for myself. I was so unhappy that I would cry most evenings. But then I became very good at playing a version of myself, which was so hard and made it worse because I just didn't want to burden anybody else. And I have the best family. I have close friends. But I was like, no, I'm not burdening them with this. I'm embarrassed by this now. And I think me putting on all that weight, looking like a burnt out mess, was a visual representation of how I felt inside. I imagine it's like a candle, and it's like getting to the bottom of the wick or the pot, and it's just like flickering a little bit. There was just a little bit left, just ticking over, just keeping me going enough just to survive and get through each day. And most of my energy went on pretending to be happy for everybody else. And then when I came back in here, that's whenever, this came off, and it was like so agonizing, exhausting, added to the exhaustion.
You know what? That reminds me of this thing that I say to my clients, and there's 3 versions of ourselves. There's the person you want to be, and that's based off of your value system. That sort of informs it, and it teaches you the direction you want to go in. I want to be this kind of person, so you're putting effort into that. And then there's the person that you think other people want you to be, which is that role that you play. So you might be a partner, or you might be a parent, or you might be an employer or employee, and each of those roles has an expectation. But then there's the last one, which is often neglected, which is the person you are right now, the person you are. And that was the person that was going home, and all they were getting was tears, unhappiness, and that's really strong. I can feel that. It's really strong. You had your values, you knew what you wanted. You wanted to be that happy teacher. You wanted to fulfill that 11-year-old's dream of being a teacher, which is such a wonderful dream. And you were also trying to fulfill everyone else's expectations of what that might look like, and being a son, and being a brother, being a friend, all those different things. But that one person that was being neglected was you, the person you actually was. And what I also want to say is, that's brilliant. You punched a lamppost.
I know. It didn't even hurt. I was full of adrenaline. I just was like,
You're out of control.
Moment gone.
Punched a lamppost like you vandal.
No, but it was like, it was just like, I just was like, I was punching that memory, that post. I was like, if I could, I would break that post down and I'd build something else better in its place.
I mean, you're
like
amazing.
Like a bridge. Build a bridge across the river.
This is great. Sing along. I tell you what I'm going to do. When I put this on YouTube, I'm going to have the words go across the bottom with a little ball. Like
sing
Disney,
along.
Like but I mean, what do you think your why was behind your change? What do you think was the catalyst, the real reason why that was enough? I've got to change this now.
Do I know what? This is going to sound so silly. There was one night I was sitting at this table doing work, and I looked over at the sofa and I was like, I would love right now to be able to sit on that sofa, not worry about sitting down and all these rolls sticking out, not worry that there's work that's unfinished, and just relax, maybe put on a vinyl or watch TV. But no, I'm not allowed, because I've got no time to do this. I look horrible, feel horrible. And I just wanted that sense of. And I remember one time my coach saying to me, visualize how you want to be at some point this week. Pick a time. How are you going to get there through this week? What little bits in your day are going to get you there? And for whatever reason, it was 7 p.m. on a Saturday. That's my time. And I remember sitting over there on the sofa, watching TV. And I was like, and I had this, my why is, when I have that state of happiness for being me, not having money, not having, food in the fridge, not having enough money to pay the electricity these days. And just that sense where I can sit in utter calmness and be like, I am enough. Right here, right now, in this moment, I am enough for me. And I won't let anyone try and take that away from me. And I will hold on to it with both hands and say, absolutely not. You're not taking that away from me. I've worked hard to get there, to get myself to this point, and I appreciate everything I've went through in the past. But my why is to have that sense of happiness, that sense of calm in me, where I can just sit and just be, and I don't need anything else.
I love that. That's a lovely answer. I really like that answer. You've been on a hell of a journey, I mean, how did you identify like the changes that you needed to make? I know you had your why and you knew that you needed to make changes, but how did you sort of work out what you needed to do?
So I knew that I needed to lose weight. Every day I woke up in my room, I've got mirrors and the wardrobe, and I was like, oh, got to point my eyes to cover them up, because I hate it looking at myself. I hate it being in photographs. And when I was on a night out, I was the dancer. I was like, come on, everybody. Whereas that was not the case anymore, because I didn't want to move. As in, I used to wear loads of layers, or I would always wear black all the time, because I was like, oh, this will help cover up, how I look. And I became anxious about going on nights out with friends. Even eating food wasn't. I'd only had to eat. I only ate because I was hungry. But then the food I was eating was not good. I felt like I was aging very quickly, and I had no energy. There was that zest for life was gone. You would more likely get a no out of me than a yes. And I was like, where's my life going? Where am I going to be whenever I'm 40? What, sitting here or not? I'm no fun to be around anymore. I'm no fun to even be by myself. Do you know, being on lockdown, living by myself was one of the best things for me, because I had to learn to get along with me, with my thoughts. You've got a lot of time to think during lockdown. Look at me as if it's coming up again. During the lockdown, you've got a lot of time to think. It's happening again at 8 p.m. It's a lot of time to think it through and be happy with myself. And I was like, I want that. I want that for me. I want to be able to go and do things like climb a mountain, go running, go for a swim, go on holiday without
punch a lamppost,
punch a lamppost, sitting on an airplane without being petrified that I'm going to be given the extra belt. There was one point I remember there was that much left. I took a photograph from when I flew back. When was I at home? For half term, and I had so much belt, and I took a photograph of it. But then I was like, oh, I'm just taking a photograph of the belt. I was there for you taking a photograph like this with the belt, like how much belt there was, and I was like, this is amazing. And like walking up the street without thinking people are looking at me, thinking, look at the state of him. Whereas I don't care now. I have that inner sense of I've made that change. I've got myself healthy, but getting myself right in here and in here makes the rest easier. I can, whenever I've got the roller coaster of emotions going on, I can ride it a lot better without making terrible decisions. Someone once said to me, when emotions are high, intelligence is low. And I say that all the time when people come to me and all I think in my head is, when emotions are high, intelligence is low, just smile and listen and you will calm down too.
There's a quote and it says you can only be lonely if you don't like the person you're with. And it sounds to me like you had grown to, dislike the person you would become, especially when you speak of yourself as a child, that essence that you have now that you obviously had as a child too. I mean, yeah. So you think what unlocked it, what started it was the weight loss, to getting that energy back, getting that zest for life, getting that well-being feeling back. I can see how that would be a massive motivator. And I suppose that is the motivation, isn't it? That it's working. Nothing gets you the results nothing keeps motivation like results, right? You can see yourself.
And seeing it. And I went shopping just now and I bought a medium shirt from Superdry, and I was like, and it fits.
From Superdry as well, bloody hell.
I know, and they're that's what for me. I was like, this is a medium in Superdry. This never would have happened, but it wasn't the fact that I was small enough to get in there; it's that I didn't have to reach to the back of the rack in somewhere else to get the big boy shirts out.
Oh, that's amazing. That's lovely to hear, man. I mean, one of the things that's really powerful about your story, and we haven't really touched on it greatly yet, but I'd like to, is for those teachers, because it sounds like a really difficult industry to work in. But what sounded key to me was your relationship, or your new relationship with boundaries. And so what do you feel that you've learned about boundaries that you could pass along to other people? Because what I saw on a day, because I spoke to a lot of teachers on that day that we went to that wellbeing conference, and the real question for them was, there's this sort of it's all right for you type of attitude that I saw towards you, because you had talked about boundaries. And I think if you go back to that original place, like, you never thought that you could create the boundaries that you've created. So it's obvious that other people are going to feel like that. But is there any way that you can articulate that will help people understand that they can put those boundaries in, and what they were?
For me, I remember feeling, well, why? Why do I have to work to 12 and 1? Am I working smart enough, or am I being asked to do jobs that don't need to be done? And yes, I did get that feeling on that day from people like, well, okay, well, it's all right for you to do that, but I didn't have that at one point, and I believed that I couldn't. I was there. I've jumped over that fence now. So for me, I will ask. And it's brave and being vulnerable to go and ask the question about certain documents that need doing, or a certain way things need to be done. I was like, is this the best way to do it? Is this the most efficient way to do it? And I will go with an idea to those, those that up there. And I'm an SLT now. I'm a senior leader of the school. So I try and model that for other people. And I feel like I want to be a good role model for my team. I will leave at 4:30 and say, I've done a good enough job now. And I will say to people, I'll plan out my week. And if someone comes and asks me that something needs doing, I'll say, look, I'm not saying no, but I really can't do it this week. If you want me to do it well, it'll probably have to wait till I can do it by next Tuesday. And I'll try my best with it then. Rather than doing 10 different jobs and doing none of them well, I will try, and I'll put myself out there, because I've got the strength to do it, to go and have those honest conversations with, people who are in charge above me. But then that started the conversation amongst everybody. Like at my school now, we get time. We can go and ask for time to do certain documents. I'm not teaching tomorrow. I've got all day out of class to plan the spring term. What? Like I've never had that, but we've started those conversations with each other. And like that day, like one of the other speakers, Andrew said, well-being is more than just custard creams in the staff room. Like it's not this flaky thing, because until you've been where other people will identify, until you've been where I've been, you will not know how far I look. If you look at me now, like but I've been standing at the side of the road, for goodness sake, crying, wanting to do that. So don't come at me and say that I'm not. I don't know. You have to ask questions. You have to ask why, and be brave and vulnerable. Yeah, you might get the knock back, but it's like exercise. When you keep trying and keep asking, you get better at it. And so for me, like I will say not yet to things. I'll plan out my week as best as I can, and I will stick to it. I will leave. I've got an alarm that goes off on my phone at 4:30. Leave. And I've literally.
Is that what it says? I love that.
Leave. Yeah, just leave. And today I left at 3:40 because I wanted to go and have a haircut and go uptown before I came on with you today. And I was in the middle of gluing a sheet into a book, and I was like, oh, my alarm went off at 3:40. Stuck it in, closed the book. There was like 15 left to do. I could have stayed and done it. I was like, no, absolutely not. So I left, and I know that. So my team are on board with me for this. So imagine this could be any business. I'm in charge of 12 people. That could be any business at all. I share out our expectation for the week, and I said to them, do you know, if you help me do this and we work together as a team, imagine how we're going to feel every day when we could tick these jobs off on the can-do list for that day. And we can bin that little sheet there and then get another one out. Or on a Friday when we leave together, some Fridays we all leave at 3:30. Me, the teacher, leaves with the TAs.
Love it.
And I say to my team, thank you. Like, thank you so much. I will share that, like, my why with them. I will share how passionate I am about doing things. And I'll say, because you've done that for me, that means that I can leave at 4:30 and keep my life as happy as it is. But when people don't be part of the team, then this is what I will literally spell it out, because I know what will happen because I've been there. And my team will actually say to me, there was a couple of weeks ago, I had to do 2 evenings of work. And the next day they were like, are you all right? And I was like, oh, I'm a bit tired. They're like, well, you did do some work at home and you say you don't. Why did you take it home? And I was like, oh, I wanted to get certain documents doing. They were needed to, they were needed. And then I went and I asked for time out. I was like, well, why am I not going to say about this? So I was like, do you mind if I just take 1 hour tomorrow afternoon just to get get caught up on a couple bits? No problem. Done.
What I love about that is there's a generation before you that might not find it very easy to change. They might even resist it. They might even refuse. But what you're doing now is you're showing that generation that's coming up after you that you can be different and that you can put boundaries in. You can still do the job, because the teaching industry, the education industry has been around for a long time. And there's lots of things that have been lots of like habits that have been handed down. But I just love it, because I say all the time to my clients, nobody just walks up and answers the question that you never asked. It's only when you ask yourself questions do you start to look and search and find the answers. And, I said it on the day when I did my talk, and I said, I used to think for the first 25 years of my life that I was a fearful, weak person. That was my belief. And that's what I applied to everything I did. But I wasn't a fearful person. I was scared. But what I realized is it's only when you're scared does it give you the opportunity to be brave, because you can't be brave without first being scared, and you had to ask yourself some difficult questions. And the answer was to fight for yourself. And that must have been scary, but you were brave and you did it anyway, which is pretty freaking awesome, And
I think people in power, they do appreciate that bravery. They do, even though I wouldn't actually.
They admire it.
Admire it. In that other school, I wouldn't have got it, but I was brave to bring her, sit in a room with her on her own and say, I'm leaving. Like that. I look back now and I was like, how did you do that? And you were like, I'm leaving. And sorry, go for it.
No, it still seems to impact you. I mean, there's something that I wanted to bring up, and it's more as a friend here, like as someone that loves you, but I would like to see a bit more compassion for that guy that was coping. because what you found was what I found. You know, I had an addiction to alcohol, and I'm grateful for it. I wouldn't take it away because it helped me cope with the emotions that I wouldn't allow myself to experience. And that's what you did. You found a way to cope. And I want you that photograph. I think about that photograph a lot, that one of you standing in the lift. And I want you to find a way, as my friend, as our for our friendship, I want you to find a way to look back and not make fun, not judge, not anything. Just feel compassion for that poor guy that was trying his best to find a way to cope, man. Do you think you can do that?
I can. I can rebrand that in my head. That's the day when change was starting. Even that day was rock bottom. I was like, and I remember even when actually, now that you say that, even when taking that photo, I was saying to myself, this is it. This is rock bottom. Don't let yourself get there again.
I admire and love that guy that found a way to cope. That found a way to cope with what was going on in his life. That all that hardship, you know, people don't realize unless they have been overweight how hard it is. How hard it is to just do the simplest of things, the basics. People look at somebody like that with absolute judgment and they go, oh, they're lazy. It's not that. It's hard. It's so hard to be
every decision was second guessed. Is that the right term? Like, I would prefer to stand up back then rather than sit down. Because when you sit down, you know, you protrude a bit more. There's more rules. So I'd rather stand up. I was like, if I was somewhere, I'd be like, oh, I'll be fine. Say if we're in a pub or something. I'll stand. I'll be the one that stands. There's not enough chairs. And then my back was breaking because of it.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of it. Listen, we're running out of time. I don't want this to end. It's been lovely talking to you. There's a lot of this I'd heard, but you've offered a different spin, and I'm just so happy that I get to share your incredible story with other people. It's been a real honor. Truly, I mean that. It really has. Just before we go, is there anything that you'd like to pass on that you think could help other people with their self-development?
I would say, picture yourself in 5 years, or actually 5 months, 1 month. And will you be happy with yourself if you continue your life every day the way you're living it now in a month, 5 months, 5 years? Will you be happy? If not, what do you need to change? And if you want to get to that goal, what evidence is in your day right now that's showing you that you're going to work towards that goal? Because if it's not there, then you need to think about it.
That's brilliant. That really is. That's absolutely lovely. I love that. That's really great. Great guidance. Great advice. Just thank you.
It's okay.
Where can people find you? Because you do a little bit of influencing on the old socials.
Do a little bit of summit, don't I? You can find me. I've got my Facebook page, which is Mr. Mac Making Memories. Mac is MC, by the way, not MAC. Mr. Mac Making Memories on Instagram. Mr. MC Official 1986 on Twitter and on TikTok now, as of last week. Mr. Mac on track on TikTok.
Oh, I'll have to follow you on TikTok. I mean, you did some videos. I've not actually seen them, but a lot of people were buzzing about some videos you made. What was that?
What was the video? Like, was this on Instagram or something?
Yeah, I think it was Instagram. Like you made some sort of reels or something. Was it like some sort of song or something?
Oh, so I used to turn pop songs into educational songs. So it was Boom Shake the Alphabet instead of Boom Shake the Room.
That's
Boom Shake Shake Shake. And it went crazy. This is before I fell apart. I made this video and I look back at that guy now and go, look at the energy in him. I think I could do a better video now. And
I challenge you. I
will do a 2022 edit. And
with the headset?
Yeah, people were loving it with the headset. And then I do comedy. I started to do some comedy ones now as well, where I talk about things that happen in education that are silly, like making sure that, like, this is an improv one right now, but excuse me, who put this on the wall? Why is it not triple mounted in different colors of paper? I'm going to get my spirit level and I'm going to check everyone's lettering. And if it's not level, you will know about it. Okay. Well done. That class are sitting nicely. Anyway, bye, Barbara.
Right. You must make that.
I will. And
you must make that.
The thing is, I've lived it. That's why it's so funny.
Well, it's funny and it's also sad at the same time, isn't it? Because it's true, unfortunately. But then I think comedy is based in truth a lot of the time, isn't it? You know, it's what makes it so funny in some ways. But mate, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for doing this, and I can't wait to see you again soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. Bye, everyone.